In Unit 12, topic number 2, we're going to talk about how to solve for the missing sides of triangles using our trig ratios. So if we recall from the last unit, the sine of an angle, or in this case angle A, is the opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, it's that ratio. The cosine of angle A is adjacent over hypotenuse. And the tangent of angle A is the opposite over adjacent. Okay, so the thing that's tricky is when we look at this triangle over here, there's only two things that they've given to us. They've given to us the measure of angle A, that's going to be 40 degrees, and then they've given me the side which says 10 here. Okay, that side is opposite of angle A. So before we actually get started on how to solve for missing sides, let's say the two missing sides in this triangle are AC, I'm going to call that X, and AB, I'm going to call that Y. Okay? And I want to just set up each of the three trig ratios that are possible with the triangle. So what is sine of angle A? Well, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so sine of angle A is 40 degrees, so sine of 40 equals 10, that's opposite, over the hypotenuse, which we labeled as y. Okay? Cosine of angle A would be the cosine of 40 degrees equals adjacent over hypotenuse, which is x over y. And then the tangent of angle A, so tangent of 40 degrees equals, that's opposite over adjacent, so that's 10 over x. And now the important question is what's down here. It says, which of these equations can you solve, and what are you solving for? Well, if I look up at this first equation here, the only variable of this equation is y. In the middle equation, cosine 40, I have x and y as a variable, and then in the tangent equation, I have just x. And we know that when we have one equation, we want only one variable to solve for. So we actually can't solve for cosine, for x or y using the cosine equation. The first equation that we can use to solve is sine of 40 equals 10 over y. In that equation, you're finding the hypotenuse. And then we also can solve the tangent of 40 equals 10 over x. And I would use this equation to solve for the missing leg. Which means, if I use these two equations, I would be able to know all three sides of the triangle. So let's actually use that this process in a couple of examples. So example, find the missing side of each of the following triangles. So here I'm only asking you for one missing side, x. Okay? And I'm going to give you some steps that we can follow to solve for the missing side. Alright, so the 4 steps that we have here are first, identify the givens. Then we're going to figure out if we're going to use sine, cosine, or tangent. We're going to set up an equation and we're going to solve. So looking at number 1, what am I given? I'm given angle, the 39 degrees. I'm also looking for the opposite side. And I'm also given the hypotenuse. So I'm going to ask myself, I'm going to write down SOHCAHTOA. Sorry. SOHCAHTOA. Okay? I have here, for this angle 39 degrees, I have the opposite and the hypotenuse, and I'm going to figure out which trig ratio, sine, cosine, or tangent, relates the opposite and the hypotenuse. Well, that's sine, O and H. So I'm going to set up an equation using my sine function then. I know that sine of 39 degrees will equal the ratio opposite over hypotenuse, so x over 15. And now I have one equation with one variable, so I can solve for x. Here I have x divided by 15, so to undo that, I'm going to multiply by 15 on both sides and get 15 times the sine of 39 degrees equals, those cancel, so equals x. And now at this point, you're actually going to want to use the calculator. This is your exact answer, but to me it makes more sense if we have a decimal approximation. So on a regular calculator, you should be able to type in 15 sine of 39 degrees and get 9.44. We're going to round to 2 decimal places. So the length of that side is 9.44. If you are using your phone, we go about it this way. First of all, your phone has to be turned horizontal so that you on the calculator so that you have the multiple options. You're going to hit 39, then hit sine, and then hit times 15. It's a little bit different, okay? So if you're using your phone, it's a little bit trickier. But we get 9.44. Let's do example number 2, okay? So step 1 is identify the givens. I'm given angle is 23. I'm given the opposite side, and I'm looking for the adjacent side. Let's think about SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. Which trig ratio, sine, cosine, or tangent, relates the opposite and the adjacent sides? That's tangent. So I'm going to use the tangent ratio and set up an equation. Tangent of 23 degrees equals opposite is 12 over adjacent, which is x. Now this equation is a little bit different because the x is now in the denominator of my ratio. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm still going to start the same way and multiply by the denominator and get x times the tangent of 23 equals 12. Those cancel. Now I haven't solved for x completely yet. I still have to get it alone by dividing by the tangent of 23 degrees on both sides. Those cancel on the left, and you're left with x equaling 12 divided by the tangent of 23. But again, let's estimate this. So using your calculator, you're going to do 12 divided by tangent of 23 and get 28.27. And that's the length of x. Okay? If you're using your phone for this one, it's a little bit trickier because you might need to write things down. You might have to do like 23, then hit tan, write that answer down, and then do 12 divided by whatever you got for that answer. Okay? Good luck, and I hope if you have any questions, feel free to email your teacher.